Good evening and welcome to the Charter Township of Elmwood Planning Commission regular meeting convened on Tuesday, February 21st, 2023 at 7 p.m. Please stand and join me in reciting the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Chris Makowski.
Here.
Kendra Udom.
Here.
Rick Beckles.
Here.
Jeff April.
Here.
Steve Donald.
Here.
And Doug Roberts and Jonah Kuzmeyer.
All right, with those two excusals, we do have a quorum, so we can proceed on into our agenda. Item D, limited public comment only on the agenda items. And we are having a public hearing tonight, and there will be an opportunity for public comment within the public hearing. So I will open the first public hearing at 7:02 p.m. If you wish to make a comment, please come to the podium and do so.
Just, you're opening the limited.
The limited public comment, yes.
Excuse me.
Seeing no one coming forward for the limited public comment, we will close that also at 7:02 p.m. Item E, agenda modifications and approval. Please review the items on the agenda, and if one of the commissioners feels as though there needs to be a modification to one or all of the remaining items, please proffer a motion at this time. Otherwise, we'll need a motion for approval.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as printed.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Support?
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The agenda is approved as presented. Item F, we have we have two sets of minutes. We'll take the first set of minutes from the regular meeting of January 17th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the January 17th meeting as presented.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 17th, 2023 regular meeting as presented.
Support?
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The January 17th, 2023 regular meeting minutes are approved as presented. Now, taking the January 18th, 2023 special meeting minutes.
I have a quick question, actually.
Yes.
Am I allowed to, approve minutes of a meeting I wasn't at if I saw the video?
If you saw the video and you have read through the meeting, or the minutes, and have not found any irregularities or material that didn't seem to fit, then you can participate.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. That's okay, thank you.
The only item I note in that is they used a H instead of a K in my first name.
We'll correct that.
Thank you.
Apologies, that's on me.
It's not Rich?
No.
Oh, is yours.
Oh, Frederick.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for January 18th as printed.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the special meeting minutes of January 18, 2023.
Support.
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The minutes of the January 18, 2023 special meeting are approved as presented. Item G, consent calendar.
Motion to approve the consent calendar as printed.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and accept the consent calendar as presented.
Seconded.
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The, excuse me, the consent calendar is approved as presented. Thank you. Item H, declaration of conflict of interest. If one or more of the commissioners feel as though they have a conflict with any of the remaining agenda items, please identify that at this time. If in the event that you do have a conflict when we are working on that particular agenda item, we would excuse you from the front table and you would just take a seat in the audience. And then at the conclusion of that agenda item, you would be welcome to return to the commission table.
I have a conflict with item JB, Discovery Center and Pier.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to state it. I don't believe it's a conflict of interest, but I'd like to make sure it's out there. I have worked for Mr. Dindia on a project in the past, have no affiliation with the new project that he's working on, but I have worked with him in the past.
Okay, and currently there are no existing contracts or agreements. Okay. Okay. Then we will determine that Commissioner Luda has a conflict of interest with JB, and when we arrive at that point of the agenda, you will be excused to the audience. Thank you. Item H, old business. There's really nothing before us at this time. Item J, A, public hearing, site plan review, special use permit 2023-01, request by John Dindia regarding property at 8230 East Lakeview Hills Road, parcel number 006-012-00 for an agricultural commercial enterprise, parenthesis, farm market. Yes. And I have a statement I'm required to read prior to opening the hearing. This public hearing to receive public input on the following matter, the site plan review and special use permit requested by John Dindia, is in accordance with the official notice, is now open at 7:09 p.m. The Elmwood Township Planning Commission would like to make it clear that it is bound by rules and laws and that these will be followed when weighing the case. In order to conduct the hearing within a reasonable time and to keep the subject at hand, you are asked to observe the following rules. The applicant will state their case fully and furnish the commission with pertinent information concerning the property. Township staff input, if any, will then be provided. Those wishing to speak for, against, or about the proposal will be heard. The public is encouraged to state their name and address if they are a resident, property owners, or business owner, but are not required to do so in order to speak. Please refrain from repeating what has been said before, and please do not involve personalities. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, enforced by the vice chairperson or secretary. Be specific as possible. All statements or questions must be directed to the chairperson. Once the public hearing is concluded, the commission will undertake its deliberations and make a decision during the regular meeting. During its deliberations, commission members may ask questions of any person in attendance. Of course, you are not required to answer any question, but answering could be helpful to the commission. Any such questions and answers do not reopen public comment. The matter may be tabled or continued if more information is needed to make an informed decision. If the zoning ordinance allows the commission to make a decision, then the matter may be approved, denied, or approved with conditions. The decision may be delayed or postponed for cause as determined by commission members. So we will, the public hearing is now open. Do you want to give a brief overview of your project?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is John Dindia, and I own Lakeview Hill Farm with my partner Bailey Samp, who's out of town at the moment. But we've owned the farm, which is 2 parcels west of this proposed property, since 2017. Since then, we've grown our agricultural business that specializes in hoop house and greenhouse production quite significantly. We employ 8 individuals currently that all live within the, Grand Traverse and Genoa counties. And, we think we're doing a good thing. We're certified organic, and we really, take into account stewardship of the land and maintaining the agricultural integrity of the land that we manage. We hope to convert this property at 8230 East Lakeview Hills Road, the schoolhouse, into an ag farm market so that we can sell our produce along with other agricultural items from neighboring farms. We believe that in this time it is almost necessary to diversify agricultural operations to include direct-to-market sales in order to sustainably and financially manage the business. And we hope to do that for ourselves as well as other neighboring farms. We plan to utilize the remaining 3 acres of tillable land on this property to grow cut flowers for sale at the store as well as wholesale accounts. And with that, there's not much more. We're excited to be in this schoolhouse. We plan to, maintain the historical integrity that this building has, and we're excited and hope to be able to share it with everyone to the public. So with that, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is for township staff input, if
Yes.
any, will then be provided. I just kind of want to echo everything that's been said. You have your application. I did provide in the application a staff report. After the public hearing is closed, I do also have draft proposed findings of fact that'll help, guide you through your deliberations. I do have copies available for all members of the public, including the applicant, to follow along. One other thing I do want to note, as referenced at the last meeting and as requested by Dindia, John, I have included in your packet copies of letters that were submitted and received at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on January 4th, 2023. So these are from, there's 4 letters in total. So they're, will be referenced as part of the packet and the proposal. One other thing to note, again, this project does require the use requires a 50-foot setback for all structures associated with the use. To clarify and just kind of reiterate, this project did receive 2 variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals on January 4th, 2023. Our ordinance does indicate that approvals by the ZBA aren't, finalized until there's a written, decision or minutes are approved. So that's still kind of pending, but again, it has been approved. There have been no comments submitted against the project. I don't foresee an issue with it, but just wanted to relay that information.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Sarah regarding the application or the scope of the project?
Have we received any more letters?
No additional letters.
But they've all been submitted.
That's correct.
Okay.
I guess I should note a couple of other things. One item that was missing at the last meeting was the lighting plan that has since been provided. It's included in the packet. And friendly reminder that this use does, as defined, agricultural commercial enterprises are dependent upon on-site, agricultural use. So, any condition of approval will be, there needs to be the plantings done on-site, probably within a certain time period, similar to what the commission did for TC Whiskey. But we have a planting plan that was submitted and can be followed, so that should be fine.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Dindia? Okay, and you said that you had draft findings of,
But those won't be provided until after, the public comment. Public has had an opportunity to
okay.
comment.
And I will open up the public comment period at 7:17 PM for the project that that's currently under discussion.
You're welcome to speak if you want.
Well, I really don't have anything to add other than what's in the letter. I submitted a letter, but we are in support of John and Bailey's efforts.
Okay.
We appreciate that they want to keep the integrity of the schoolhouse intact.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? Then we will close the public comment for the public hearing at 7:18 PM. So, just,
Can you pass that copy of the table?
so now the public hearing portion is closed and we're getting into our deliberations.
So just a quick preface to this. All information found in this document is not new. This information, these proposed findings are based on the application, items within the application. All findings, the first one is, verbatim what the applicant put in their application. So it's a lengthy document, but again, this is not new information.
And the application that was submitted was complete with the exception of the lighting plan?
Yes,
And the lighting plan was submitted with our most recent packet of information?
yes. And that is referenced within this draft decision and order. And friendly reminder that this draft decision and order can be, modified, proposed findings of fact can be added to, removed, modified, whatever you want.
And with the ZBA granting the requested variances, this project now falls within the zoning ordinance that we have.
That's correct. That standard can be met, again, with the finding that, it obtained the 2 required variances. So, for example, on page 3 of 16, a proposed finding for, the condition 5, that's standard 5, although the pre-existing non-conforming structure is not located more than 50 feet from the property line, on 1/4/2023, the ZBA granted a variance for both lot lines, so.
Okay.
may be helpful to go through page by page and, not necessarily read everything, just, go over, the additional requirements for certain special land uses on page 2 of 16. So again, the use must be associated with farm operation. Does the commission agree with those findings? Would they like to modify any of those findings?
Okay. The way I will do that is I will read M1 and everything under M1. We'll need to know whether the standard has or has not been met. So starting out M1.
I would say that it's been met.
Has been met, okay. M2.
I say yes.
Okay, it has been met. M3.
Yes.
M4.
Yes.
It has been met. M5.
That's been
Yes.
clarified, so yes.
Okay. M6.
Yes.
M7.
Sarah, you looked at that lighting and landscaping, and that meets the
Yes.
requirements? Okay. Yes, I would say M7 is good.
Okay. M8.
Yes.
Okay.
Or there wasn't anything with that one, right?
Pardon me?
Did we need anything, other than like the lighting that was submitted, there wasn't anything else?
Correct.
Okay.
Section 8.4.
Before we get into that, I just want to clarify that the commission is fine with those findings as is and no modifications, correct?
We're proposing no modifications at this time.
What about the, like having, you said in, what was it, the first one? Maybe possibly making a condition for, M1. And then possibly for M3 too, just to ensure that there wasn't any kind of alcohol sales or tobacco or anything. Is that necessary with this, or is it pretty much if they're, how's that work? Is it kind of like if we have a condition, is it kind of like a double, like making sure it's not going to happen at that point? Because it kind of states it already, but.
Well, the ordinance prohibits on M3, it prohibits all of those particular sales. If one or more of those were to be sold on that project, it would be violation of the ordinance and of essentially of the approval that was granted, and there would be probably a letter to a cease and desist. There's some type of enforcement action taken by the township.
But to your question, yeah, it's essentially like, yes, it's in the ordinance, but we're also making it a condition of approval.
Okay.
It's kind of, sorry, because it was brought up, it's kind of interesting, because we'll allow a vineyard to sell their wine, but here we say alcohol production and sales are not allowed.
Unless otherwise authorized by this ordinance. So if at a future date, the Dindias want to pursue having a winery on site, they could, and, that would, follow site plan review, and if they are given approval under that section of the ordinance, they could sell alcohol related, that they grow on site, they could sell that within the farm market, but at this point in time, they don't have approval for
Because they're selling, in that, I mean, it doesn't matter, I'm just thinking about the ordinance, because they're selling other farm commodities or farm commodities from other growers within the counties or whatever, could they sell somebody else's wine and not do wine of their own?
Not
I-
under our current ordinance.
I'm just asking, because, I mean, in our ordinance, we've allowed wine sales and now even whiskey sales. It seems
But
like
yeah.
it's.
But the sale of those goods are essentially accessory to the use that's been approved by the commission for that parcel in question.
Okay.
You know, we can look at modifying our ordinance, but I would point out that, you know, currently under our ordinance, retail sales are prohibited within the ag district. You know, there's, of course, the exception for a farm market, which is different, you know, it just, you know, that use needs to, you know, meet a variety of different standards, and one of them is, you know,
Yeah.
it's
No,
limited in sales.
I just was trying to, I don't know, you know, where things stand, but I know Ringman Brothers sells wine.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if they wanted, if they've even approached, just a thought. But it doesn't matter, if it's not allowed, it's not allowed, but it just seems, if he's selling farm products.
But isn't it because of how they applied for the application, is what they applied for, a farm market agricultural commercial enterprise? That's, I think, the difference, is their application is specifically for agricultural commercial enterprise farm market, and under the farm market, these apply and these don't.
Yeah. and
Exactly.
It doesn't matter, Chris, I mean, they're not asking for it, it's
I just-
kind of ironic that we let.
Well, in full disclosure, the applicant has, you know, I had a call with John after our last meeting, because you know, at the last meeting, I mentioned that, you know, alcohol sales are prohibited. But again, it goes back to what use is the applicant applying for. And again, you know, the applicant has the opportunity to apply for site plan review for a winery. And if they were to obtain that approval, at that time, that's when there could be, you know, alcohol sales. But again, I mean, it's,
not-
yeah, liquor stores are not, you know, an allowed use within the zoning district. That's
Right.
not what's being proposed at this, I mean,
No, and I wasn't thinking that he should sell liquor there, I was just comparing it to Brinkman
Mhm.
Brothers that is allowed to sell alcohol. And he's not that he's even asking for it, I don't even know that, so.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it was just an interesting fact, and I think Chris hit it on the nose, the answer to it.
Are the commissioners proposing a condition for M3?
No.
Okay. Kendra, you mentioned a condition for M1.
Yeah, it was just, I think, something Sarah had put in there. Oh, yeah. I want it at C, M1C was the one that Sarah had just kind of mentioned in there. I just wanted to make sure that we addressed it, just because it was in here to, whether or not we want to or not.
and that's a recommended condition, just because, again, that use is dependent upon on-site ag use. Currently, there isn't, you know, any, you know, agricultural use that would be dependent, that the farm market would be dependent on, so therefore they need to do at least some plantings. The 1 year would be consistent with, again, circling back to TC whiskey, that's what the commission, you know, required TC whiskey, that they need to, you know, plant those required crops within 1 year of the starting of construction.
Would they already have the crops planted, though, if they're gonna be selling the product that they already have going?
Not on this site.
Exactly, it's on a different
On the actual
parcel.
site,
Right, it
so
has
it'd
to
be the
be-
flower, it would be like the, okay.
Like cutting,
Cool.
cutting flowers for cutting or
If I
herbs.
may add, I mean, I'm not worried about this because we are gonna farm it, but the GAMS protocols don't state that the property that the market's on has to be farmed, it just has to be, managed or affiliated with the farm, so.
Our ordinance
But our
does.
ordinance goes a little, one step beyond the GAMS protocol, and for the agricultural commercial enterprise in the ag district, we do require that there be something growing on the spot that would be, I guess, connected to the sales. So, you know, if you had like a garden for, you know, for flowers, for people to come in and cut flowers, or you had an herb garden that's growing there, I mean, that's meeting that condition.
I'll help you with it, John. I think that it's currently hay ground. You could bale up some hay and sell that at the farm market, and you'd be all set.
Once again, I'm not concerned about it, I don't think it's driven by it, but we're definitely a farm.
Okay. So did, Kendra, did you still want to have an additional condition in M1?
Oh, no, I was just
Okay.
bringing it up more, just
Okay.
making sure that we didn't skip by it without discussing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for section 9.8, the commission has agreed that the standards contained in 9.8M have been met with no additional conditions. Moving on to section 8.4, it looks as though area 17 but proposed to change. In the
So all of this text verbatim was included in my staff report to you guys.
Okay.
And, I mean, I would note that, you know, for number 37, so that's on page 7 of 16, the north arrow isn't shown on the plans, but, I mean, again, it's easily referenced. I mean, it's, most of the plans are, you know, a small portion of the survey, so although it's not shown on the plan, it's there.
okay.
And I guess I would note that section 8.5 for standards of site plan approval, all required site plan and application information has been provided as specified within this article. So if you want, we can talk about that and, you know, if the commission agrees with that.
Okay. Any other concerns under 8.4, 8.4? Moving on to 8.5, review and approval. B1,
That's been met.
Yep.
B2,
Yes.
B3,
Yes.
B4,
Yes.
B5,
Yes.
B6,
Yes.
B8. Oh,
B7.
B7, excuse me. B7.
Yes.
Now, B8,
Yes.
Yes.
B9,
Yes.
Yes.
B10,
Yes.
B11,
Yes.
Yes.
B12,
Yes.
B13,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in section 8.5, review and approval, do any commissioners have any additional information or conditions or make any modifications to the areas that we've approved? Okay. Moving on to section 9.3. Standards, requirements, and findings for special use approval. So, A1,
Yes.
A2,
Yes.
yes, it has
Yes.
been, okay. A3,
Yes.
Yes.
A4,
Yes.
Yes.
A5,
Yes.
Yes.
A6,
Yes.
A7,
Yes.
Yes.
A8,
Yes.
Yes.
A9,
Yes.
Yes.
Reviewing section 9.3, do any of the commissioners have any proposed modifications to what we've already covered and approved?
No.
Okay.
If you look on page 16 of 16, I have two recommended motions, because if all of the standards have been met or can be met with conditions, there's a motion to approve, and then also referencing the previously found findings of fact. And then the 7 conditions previously mentioned throughout the proposed findings of fact are reiterated there in
Okay.
one location. Again, we're trying to streamline review of the project, so, proposed project, so.
Thank you. So we're looking for a motion to either approve, deny, or delay the action.
Motion to approve 2023-01 with the conditions that are stated.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the site plan review and special use permit with the conditions that are listed
And based upon the previously found findings of fact.
and based upon the previously found findings of fact.
Support.
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is approved, and the site plan review and special use permit are completed. Thank you, and good luck with your project.
John, I'm excited about your project, and I think it's a great repurpose of that existing structure, so good luck. And
That is nice
congratulations.
to keep the character of that schoolhouse versus it winding up in a private sale and having aluminum siding put on it and something like that.
We think it's cool because I don't know of any in the area that are open to the public. I think a lot of people are just gonna wanna come see it.
And it's right by the TART trail too,
Yeah.
so having that's really cool. Yeah.
Now, are there any, this is not germane to our proceedings, but it's just a pet interest of mine. Are there any artifacts from the original school inside the building? Did they leave like the slates up on the wall or anything like that, or has that all been?
No, there's some, the previous owners did leave some information behind, which we haven't dug through. A lot of them are photographs.
Okay.
Of the school with teachers and students.
Okay.
There's obviously
Do you know whether or not it was granted a standard school status? Is there a sign or any documentation that would say standard school?
From my understanding, it was never granted standards.
Well, I don't know, all that document is there, all that documents are there, but
Okay,
I don't think it was.
okay,
It was kind of their, we've tried to dig into the history of this since we acquired it, but it is somewhat of a mystery. I'm not sure. I don't think it got standard school status.
okay. Because I think to have standard school status, you had to be following the state curriculum at that time, and the state superintendent would send a representative up to interview the teacher and look at the record keeping. Typically, if it was a standard school, there was a sign that would be on the outside. I think the old schoolhouse in Cedar has a standard school sign on the outside. So it's just, I've always been fascinated by the county schoolhouses. Thank you for,
those records are there, and there is some indicating readings like that way
Mhm.
back from the 1800s.
okay,
I think there is a sign, I think Caleb and Ashley said that there was a sign that they took down but never put back up.
It's just a historic marker sign.
Oh, okay.
It's not a, from what I remember, it's not anything special, you know, it's by the road commission, but,
Okay.
and my husband Tom doesn't remember any other signage.
Okay.
Other than, that's what they always called it. But there is records that show from when the school first became a school, way back in the day,
Wow.
the state coming in and assigning
Mhm.
different superintendents and.
okay,
What
great.
year was that?
Pardon?
Do you know what year that was?
Well, it was built, I think, in 1890 something like that.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay, well, thank you for letting
I
me
don't remember. It's-
have that little bird walk.
It's over 150 years as indicated in the ZBA application and planning commission application.
Okay.
There's a whole wood box full of all kinds of school records and notes from the board meetings and stuff.
Wow,
That's cool, yeah.
We haven't dug too far into it, waiting for all this to get approved before we get too excited.
okay. Well, so the excitement can build from this point onward?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably be in tomorrow to try to get my land use permits.
Okay. Very good, okay.
Well, good luck with the project.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We are now at JB SPR 2023-02, request by Discovery Center and Pier regarding property at 13223 Southwest Bayshore Drive, parcel 033-078-00 for Discovery Pier Pavilion. And Commissioner Luda is going to recuse herself and join the audience. So, let me see. And the application submitted was complete.
So I guess if I may, I know this is just under site plan review and doesn't include a public hearing, but I think it's, best practice to kind of follow that process, allow the applicant an opportunity to
Mhm.
present. Anybody who wants to comment
Okay.
would have already commented, and then I'll do a brief report.
Okay. Matt, would you like to come up and share the project?
Sure. It occurred to me that this was kind of missing, just to put everything in perspective, so I made this drawing. I didn't make it, but I colored it in. So and this is really a substantial change, right? So there's two things here at play. The yellow rectangle indicates the concrete pad that we were originally gonna have in place. Integrated into that was gonna be this big thick aluminum frame, freestanding frame, that we would have this vinyl, kind of high tensile vinyl on the roof, and then looser vinyl on the sides, that we would have to remove every winter. And as we were fundraising, going along, price increases on everything went up, and in particular, that went up quite a bit, almost 3 times what its original cost was. So we started thinking about what's the longevity of that really gonna be? What's the maintenance gonna be involved with that? And then we started talking to some contractors about a pavilion. And then we started talking to some donors about a pavilion. And luckily, we've got some donors that are pretty excited about having a permanent pavilion. So that's why I'm here, is basically saying, hey, you know, we're gonna pull that idea for that semi-permanent tent and go with a permanent pavilion. I think in the plan that you've got, it's got a schematic that shows what it's gonna look like. It's in, it's on the probably third page of the bigger plans. What's kind of unique about this, and you can see it from that bird's eye view, is that there's sort of three sections to this. There's a central section that'll have a vaulted ceiling, and then the two ends have got a flat ceiling. But it kind of creates three separate areas so that we can use it, so like two groups can use it at a time, one on each end. You know, we anticipate a lot of nonprofit partners like Inland Seas using one end, maybe Maritime Heritage Alliance, or NMC's College for Kids are really interested in using the pavilion. They don't have a good site on the west side of town for their programs in the summer. And this way that we could have, you know, two different groups doing stuff on each end, and then have the middle open for the public to both sit down and have a, you know, picnic and enjoy themselves, but also sort of observe what's going on, you know, with the, you know, the programming on both ends. So, and then obviously it's a revenue generator for us on the weekends, right? I think we talked about that last time I was up here for this. You know, renting it out for everything from family reunions, high school class reunions, weddings, that type of thing. So, multi-purpose, obviously more substantial. Height limitation, I know that was a concern last time when Mike was here to talk about, you know, we might be putting in some kind of a permanent high tensile structure. That was a concern about the height. This is just under 24 feet, 23 feet, 10 inches. Let's see, I did notice, and I apologize, in Sarah's findings document, or her report, that the lighting, that the exterior lighting stuff, number 31, wasn't provided. I have all that information. I've got all the spec sheets, all that stuff is, I just forgot to include it in this application. So, happy to submit that, you know, after the fact if you want. And all the lighting, both the bollards and our light pole lighting, are all night sky compliant. They've got a VVG rating of 0, so it means there's, you know, it's 100% night sky compliant, or dark sky compliant rather. So, those are the highlights. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
On the perimeter of the footprint for the proposed building, is that a mixture of hard and soft scape?
The perimeter.
On
The landscape.
the landscaping, I'm looking at this one, and basically on the perimeter,
Oh, that's grass. Oh, just grass.
Grass,
Yeah, it'll have a
okay.
concrete pad.
Okay.
And then just grass around the perimeter.
Okay, and then from looks like the east side toward the lake.
Yeah.
What is the distance between the finished wall and the break wall, just out of curiosity? And are there any setbacks that we have to be concerned with?
Elmwood Township, we have a 30-foot setback from all water bodies, and that is met. Now, if you look at the plans, one of the sheets does include a setback line. I can't
Okay,
remember
I must
which
have
one.
missed.
Oh, yeah. It's 36, it's on, it's gonna be on the second page of the plan,
That was one of them.
A dash 1.00. It's 36, 1 inch.
Oh, okay,
36.
okay, and just a very small print. Okay, very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, at one time there was talk about having events out there, weddings and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we, I know we talked about the noise into things and shutting it down
Yeah.
at a certain time.
So in the packet, you should have, there was a sheet that was kind of color areas, use detail, Discovery Pier Pavilion use details. I submitted that with our application.
I did see that.
So the hours of, I've got the hours of operation, you know, that we would be open, and then noise, no amplified music after 10 PM. You know, basically like a Sunday through Thursday, you know, we'd close things up by 10. Friday and Saturday, if there's an event there, that event would have to be done by midnight, but no amplified music after 10 PM regardless. And then try to give you an idea of what the kind of use that would be there, you know, during the week, in terms of public use, and then, you know, private use and the frequency of that, there in the green.
What about, any type of like overflow parking for major event?
Yeah, so we've got all the parking we need according to your ordinance on site across the street, the cold storage lot. However, that said, we're actually working, we've got now, 2, possibly 3 locations to actually do shuttle, parking off-site. Working with the owners of the, Bayview Professional Center. They're on the corner of M72 and 22. They've got those 2 parking lots. And that upper lot is really unused, well, most of them are unused after 5 o'clock, but the Miller family has been amenable to working with me to get a lease there, just so it doesn't overburden our stuff, you know, as we just continue to develop the campus, and then also the old Norris School. I've also been in talks with them. So we may just opt to do that, you know, on the larger events rather than having people cross the street, so. We've been working with MDOT, you know, on the reconstruction project at M22. They're planning to put a permanent pedestrian island there for our crosswalk and a hawk signal. So we're pretty excited about that, just for safer, you know, crossing the road there, daytime and nighttime.
I guess just to piggyback off of that comment regarding parking, so if we look at section 6.1.3 of our zoning ordinance, it includes spaces that are required for a variety of different uses. We don't have a use that's specific to, you know, special events or conference and banquet centers, even though, you know, that is an allowed use within the township. So I would equate, maybe a community rec center, would probably be the most applicable use. And that's 1 space per 200 square feet of the floor area. So keeping that in mind, what's currently on this site, on this parcel, that would, be in conformance with the zoning ordinance. Although with events, obviously, you want more parking, but again, it wouldn't be required under our ordinance, but more parking you have, the better.
Yeah.
Sarah, didn't we adopt something just recently that parking lots had to be 30 feet or something from a water body?
Parking lots are not a structure. They just cannot flow directly into a wetland or water body.
I know they're not a structure. I didn't call them a structure. I just know that we adopted something that said they had to be so far from a water body. We didn't want them next to a stream or next to a...
They are allowed within the setback. So also looking within section, Article 6, I think it's B6, so every parking lot or parking area shall be so constructed that no surface water shall shed into or towards such body of water unless such surface water is first treated or filtered to remove any silt, grease, or oil, salt, or other matter which would deteriorate the water quality. I'm blurring my words, I'm so sorry, of said body of water. Snow removal from parking lot or parking area shall not be stored within the water edge setback unless contained to the parking area. So there are no setbacks specifically for parking areas. At this time, that might change in the future.
I thought we looked at that.
We looked at it for structures.
We looked at it for parking when we were, because I remember we were talking about Brewery Creek and some of its parking and how close it was to water.
I think we talked about it, but we never did anything with it. I think we left it
Never.
as was, and we just did the
Okay.
structures.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did remember talking
Yeah.
about it. I didn't know if we got anywhere with it. Okay.
Jeff, I do want to point out, to that point, that circular parking lot, you'll see, it's on the last page of that little packet.
It all flows to the middle.
It all drains, yeah, flows through the middle, and then
Excellent.
through a kind of a infiltration.
Filter system.
So,
I know we talked about this in the past too, but, fire truck, you didn't think that there was any types of issues in getting back there?
What about water availability?
I think if we turn left, turn right.
Should-
Thank you, Keith.
probably want to make sure you don't suck up underwater ROV. They're doing a lot of testing and classes and stuff out there. Got a business partner that does a lot of their testing of their underwater ROV stuff.
Oh, really?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty fun to be out there when they're doing it, so.
Does he find much coal down there anymore?
Just chunks, no. When we were dredging, we found some.
Yeah,
Not as much as we thought. We thought there'd be a lot,
yeah.
but
I remember those days. Put a lot of coal through that system.
we're pretty excited about this. I mean, we feel like it's a good reuse, obviously, of the property, taking an old dock and transforming it into something for the public, so.
I like this better than the tent.
Yeah, so me too,
Yeah.
for lots of reasons, so. And then the directive that we gave to the architect was to have it, be real compatible with the pavilions that are next door to the park.
I was just going to comment on that,
Yeah.
the proposed design does flow nicely with what
Yeah.
exists.
That was very intentional. The roofs are gonna match, and so the color scheme will match too, so.
Very cool.
Matt, do you see this dock ever being used for the possibility of cruise ships?
Well, not any time no, the short answer is probably not, no. And the reason being is, we had gone down that path 4 or 5 years ago. And it was really when the center was under a different governance structure, and they were kind of struggling to try to find revenue sources, to keep things going there. And then Rotary, made a very deliberate decision to bring in a new board of directors and change up the governance structure. And ever since then, we've kind of gone down this path with really trying to find some more mission-aligned partners like NMC and Michigan Tech and, Inland Seas and really derive the revenue from those kinds of sources that are not controversial and more aligned with, science, education, water quality, that kind of stuff. That became quite a hot button topic. It was right after I started. And what became apparent was that we couldn't really make that decision in a vacuum. Yet we had a pier that was approved to be a port for cruise ships, but we hadn't really reached out in the previous management, and they were very well intentioned. Hadn't reached out to the community to say, well, Traverse City, do we want to be a cruise ship destination? Do we want to be a port of call for cruise ships? Because when I started and we received the first couple, I got a lot of pushback. A lot of folks were pretty upset about that. So we said, okay, let's push pause on that. And let's start having some different conversations with community leaders and community members. And the overwhelming feedback, there are some people who didn't care, some people who wanted them, but most people said we don't want to be a destination for cruise ships in Traverse City. And so we felt like we needed to honor that sentiment in the community and not go off on kind of on our own to do it. Because the reason why we were pursuing that originally was just as a revenue source, and that's not a really it's not a good business plan if you're a nonprofit and you're trying to do stuff and fundraise for things like this pier, for example. If you're getting some of your revenue from kind of a controversial source, it makes raising money for mission-aligned things much harder.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Matt from the commission at this time? Okay,
I have none.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment? Okay.
Our fire chief can comment through the letter that he submitted that's included in your information.
Yes. Chief, their proposed plan meets with your department's approval or endorsement?
Yeah, I did notice a couple of typos in my supplemental review, and I hope they will, if there are fire lane signs, will actually say fire lane. So,
Got that, I know what you meant.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any concerns or questions in section 8.4? Looks as though things were provided. You did state that the lighting plan was not initially included.
I did note it, it should be made a condition of approval. The
Okay.
commission did approve a light plan with the previous project, but
That's what I-
as this is a permanent structure, we should, get a plan on file.
Okay.
If I recall correctly, the previous plan did obviously conform to the ordinance, so, a condition could, prior to issuance of the land use permit, a lighting plan that is in conformance with the zoning ordinance shall be submitted.
Okay.
This would be for the lighting inside the pavilion?
No.
For the
outside.
site,
For the
yeah.
outside?
Yeah.
Outside, okay.
Yeah.
That's what we got all the spec sheets on, all that stuff's
Yeah.
in the permit. I can submit that.
The township does not regulate interior lighting
Not yet.
at this time, yes.
Rick, if I may, I got one more question of Matt. I noticed they've been doing some digging out there
Yeah,
already. What have they found for soils?
we got the soil report. A lot of coal, a lot of compacted coal is about. We did 3 or 4 borings. There was a couple right underneath where the pavilion is going. And it's, we've got some, compacted concrete that we put on with the last phase when we dredged. We put a little bit of fill on top and then capped it. So there's a little bit of that crushed concrete that we put on, sand, coal, and then more sand, and then mixed dirt. But the borings, are in the packet that I provided. And then what was interesting is, so yeah, we've been digging because we're also boring, water and sewer, and new electrical out there right now. And both for, for the boats that are out there now, for the pavilion, and also in anticipation of the building that we're hoping to build, in one of our subsequent phases, that we just got a bunch of money from the federal government to kick that off. So that's to the west of the pavilion pad. They've been excavating out to lay in, the water and sewer lines. And they ran into 2 different foundations. There's 2 concrete slabs, about 4 to 6 inches thick, and they're both separated about, maybe 2 feet, 2-3 feet from one another. So there must have been 2 buildings out there at some point over, over the last, I think it was built in the 30s originally.
Right.
But there must have been 2 shacks or something, 2 some type of buildings out there
Huh.
in that general location. Because if we're trying to figure out, like, why is there a concrete slab here?
In the middle, yeah.
Right, yeah, so
Huh.
it's been interesting.
Probably that was put in before all the pilings went in, and it was
Yeah.
some sort of structure out there at
All
that
the
point.
sheet piling stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you done any, sorry, this is just my questions. Have they done any deep boring? Is there good soils down low? I know further south on the lake shore, there's a lot of marl deep.
Well, when we did, on the pier, we didn't do too much, because, that's all been filled, man-made.
Right.
We did a lot of borings as part of our dredging project, because we ended up driving a new sheet pile, because we expanded the size of the basin to the west.
Yes.
And especially just north of that willow tree on our property boundary, there's some sheet pile that does a dog leg, there. And those sheet piles, those sheets are 46 or 47 feet long, because they were hammering. It was interesting to watch them, hammering that that stuff down, and then they'd hit something, it'd go, it would just drop. And then they'd hammer again, because there was this big soft spot in there at like 20 feet or something that they had to get through before they got this solid substrate for that to hold up.
That's very similar to what they found, I think, down where the new docks are gonna be, or where the old,
Old fuel dock?
fuel docks were.
Okay.
Very similar. I was just interested in seeing if you had the same type of soils. I think they might have lost the drill bit when they were drilling, because they let go of it and it just took off. That's what I've heard anyhow.
Yeah, I believe it. That's what I saw, I was watching a couple years ago, and they put actually found that tree.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. Thank you for that. I'm sorry to slow the process down.
With no additional concerns for section 8.4, moving on to section 8.5, review and approval. As in the past, I'll just call out the section and item number, and I'll need to know whether or not it has or has not been met. So, B1.
I would recommend a modification for an additional finding, that prior to the issuance of a land use permit, a lighting plan that is in conformance with the zoning ordinance shall be submitted.
Wow, that's great wording. I'll second that.
Okay. Do we need to address that by motion, or
No.
we can just?
No,
Okay.
it'll
Okay.
just be a condition.
So, B1 has an additional
Finding.
condition that there'll be a modification that a complete lighting plan be submitted prior to the issuance of a land use permit. So with that, it has been met. B2,
Yes,
B3,
yes.
Yes.
B4,
Yes.
B5,
Yes.
Yes.
B6,
Hopefully, yes.
Yes.
B7,
We're not requiring any screening or buffering, so, right? We don't really want it,
Yeah.
so I would say yes.
B8,
Yes.
B9,
Yes.
B10,
Yes,
B11,
Yes.
B12,
Yes.
B13,
Yes.
Yes.
Do any of the commissioners feel as though a modification to any of the sections reviewed need to be made at this time?
Only the condition preset in B1.
B1, okay. Then if there are no other modifications required other than what have been identified, we will need a motion to delay, approve, or deny the application.
I would make the motion to approve SPR 2023-02 with the condition that we have set in B1.
Okay, and also the
other five,
There are-
Five, other six.
six,
other five. I think signs are in there, so there'd be 5 other ones.
okay. We have a motion,
Oh, yeah, sorry, all 6. I'll second it.
and we have support. Any further discussion? And we do have a quorum present with the recusal of Commissioner Luda. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Then the motion is carried. The The plan is approved. Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Yeah, thanks.
And the record can indicate that Commissioner Luda is rejoining us at 8:11 PM. Excuse me. Moving on to JC, introduction of zoning ordinance 2017-04-20, an amendment to amend section 2.2, dealing with building height, campground, motel, routine essential services. And there's a document that Sarah prepared for us that I placed someplace.
There's a lot of documentation.
Yes, I know I was being very careful.
While you're pulling that up, that document does indicate that generally speaking, the information is the same, with 5 modifications. So the first is, I proposed a modification to the definition of campground so that our definition aligns with the state definition of campground. So this is a clarifying change, to align with, state recommendations, state ordinances, state requirements. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. I am still working with our attorney on modifications to density. We had discussed that in the past, so we're gonna hold off on that language for now. At this time, our attorney does not recommend moving forward with the revocation section, essentially because, if somebody is not complying with their permit, it's a violation of the ordinance, and there's a process for that. If we do want a process for revocation, we could do that, but it needs to be more detailed. So, so that language is no longer before you. We're also not moving forward with height. You're gonna probably get that at your next regular meeting. We'll probably change that from, we had discussed 40 feet, we'll probably change that, make it, 35 feet to be in compliance with all of our other zoning districts, to align with our other zoning districts. And then I also tightened up the proposed modification to 8.3.c. So similar to other modifications to the ordinance, I do have a track changes document, so you can clearly see the proposed changes.
Mhm.
And that's what I have for you. Happy to answer any and all questions. And then if you want to move forward with them, I do have a proposed motion, a recommended motion on the bottom of page 104.
With respect to building height, this proposal, it's sort of an industry standard. Would this process be used in other townships?
Depends on the township,
Okay.
quite frankly. Some of them do have this very streamlined, very clear cut, from grade to the highest point. And as
And
your
is
zoning
that-
administrator and reviewing land use permits,
Okay.
having a streamlined definition would be very helpful.
My question is, they're sort of like the construction grade. They've backfilled the foundation, they've got the decks, and maybe they're starting to set the forms for sidewalks and things like that. And then there's the finished grade, where the landscapers come in and they add maybe another 24 inches of material. So is it, what grade would you use? Or what would be the measuring point?
So I don't think I have seen a plan that shows, an elevation drawing that shows like where, the topsoil's going to be with, grass. You get a elevation drawing that's from the grade to the, top of the building.
Oftentimes I see the term finished grade, and I'm just really curious on what that is, because I've seen projects where the excavation contractor has done their work, and then the landscaper comes in and adds material. Because instead of having like a form poured sidewalk, they're having like a hardscape, and they're just, in the hardscape contractors waiting for the landscape people to finish their, I mean, I don't mean
It would
to
be
make-
more in conformance. I mean, if we're using that logic, so say, you know, I give a land use permit to a project that has that shows on the plan that, you know, from grade to the highest peak is 34 feet, and then, you know, it's approved, the landscaper comes in and then puts in topsoil and like essentially changes the grade, you know, elevation to, you know, it's actually going to be 33 and a half feet. You know, again, that would be more in conformance with our zoning ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yes, I was just trying to figure out what would be your starting point.
I kind of understand Rick's question. The grades change immensely on any site, and do you take that grade elevation right next to the building, or do you take it 4 feet away from the
Mhm.
building, and if it's dropping off? I mean, what is your starting point for that elevation? Are you looking at?
Yeah, so I'm.
So you could put a planter bed close to the building that's
Mhm.
3 feet higher than the lawn, and does it start in that planter bed, or does it start
Well,
out in the
that,
lawn?
yeah, that.
Is that?
Yeah, that was it, because I've seen situations where you pull some dirt back and the waterproofing is like 2 courses of block down from where the finished grade is. So did they intended that the grade line was at the end of the waterproofing, or did they just do a substandard job of?
I don't know that that matters so much, because like Sarah said, if they're adding more, it's just gonna make that elevation
Right,
shorter.
okay.
So it doesn't matter in that respect, but if somebody put a brick planter bed that's 3 feet out from the
Mhm.
building, does that, or is that where you take your grade measurement, or do you go out in the yard somewhere?
No, it would be from the edge of the building.
So you.
The
could-
vertical distance measured from the adjacent to the wall of the building.
Okay, so I don't know that Keith would like that as much, but, because, you know, if you put a planter bed there,
Let's say a 3-foot planter bed,
you could gain 3 feet on a building easily.
so you could go up 38 feet.
I don't understand how, because the planter bed is not a building.
But
Correct,
if
It's a
it-
structure.
But if
So
it-
we're going from the
but-
edge of the building.
right, exactly. So the yard, the part that Keith's gonna park his apparatus in, is now 3 feet lower than you planned on. And I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just making you aware of it. You see what I mean?
I didn't mean to, get us way
Yeah.
out on the edge here, but I was just curious on, if I was contracted to measure the elevation of a building, and they had like this brick planter, and there were brick ties into the foundation that they went off of, I mean, that you've got a planter that essentially is part of the structure. And the planter
It's
is.
part of the structure, but again, it's not a building.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
Now, if it did say, you know, adjacent to the wall of the building, or, sorry, if it said adjacent to the wall of the structure, then I would agree with you. But again, a planter is not a building.
Okay. Okay, it's clear in my head now, thanks.
I have a quick question, Sarah. In campground, it mentions recreational units, and I know it says it's defined in the public health code, but would that just be like sites, or what is that?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
In the campground definition, it mentions recreational units. And it says it's defined by the Michigan's Public Health Code, but I was just curious what that was.
I believe that is, recreational site, so, 5 or more tents, 5 or more RV pads, 5 or more.
Like
Yeah.
campsites,
Yeah.
basically. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I thought too. I just wasn't sure.
Mhm.
So you could have 4 campsites?
It wouldn't be allowed use.
Oh, okay. So you have to, in order to have a campground, you have to have at least 5 then? Okay, cool. I like the change in 8.3C, the evidence that plans were sent to the appropriate agencies, because that's usually what we get. We don't get the comment letters back necessarily. You get that at some point, but we don't see that here too often. So I like that clarification a
And
lot.
honestly, comments are few and far in between, which we've seen. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
kind of how it is. My agencies won't touch plans until they're approved.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like that. I think that's way more clear.
Okay.
And I will just say, kind of for the record, the proposed change to section 8.4, I don't want us to get into a situation where we're waiving every requirement, but for example, if somebody comes in for a home business or something like that, I mean, we have all these strict requirements, but, to require, an individual who's gonna have, a business that's gonna have, 10 people visit the site, they should not have to, do borings for their property. I mean, it's not gonna adversely impact the neighborhood, that kind of situation. So it would allow the commission some flexibility with these requirements, which again has been past practice, but just to,
And make it easier for
Formalize it.
applicants to get through
Yeah.
that process as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good change. Any other questions or concerns about the proposed language changes in these sections? If not, then we will need a motion.
I'll make the motion to schedule a public hearing on ZO 2017-0420 at the next regular scheduled meeting on March 21st.
Okay, we have a motion to schedule a public hearing at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Support.
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item JD, introduction, ZO 2017-04-21, and a proposed amendment for section 2.2 and 3.7.
As my memo to you guys kind of indicates, I know we've kind of talked about things under discussion under ordinance, and then, at the subsequent meeting, I then propose introduction, those modifications as an introduction, and then we go public hearing. But these changes are being proposed by the floodplains manager for the state of Michigan, in order for the township to still participate within the flood insurance program. So they're being proposed as a separate zoning ordinance, because these do need to be approved within a certain time frame. And again, this is, to conform with federal requirements. So I do think they're all pretty straightforward. I do just want to modify one item that was pointed out to me by Chris today. Good catch. So on the second page, the last proposed modification, so variances shall not be issued by a community with any designated regulatory floodway if any increase in flood levels during the base flood discharge would result. Instead of being a semicolon, it should just be a period. That's an end of sentence. I copy and pasted from Matt and did not catch that typo.
Okay.
So we're looking for a motion to just take this to public hearing?
Yeah.
Or to not take it to public hearing, but
I would highly recommend we move it for a public hearing.
on the 21st?
Yep.
Okay, I would make that motion that this goes forward to public hearing on March 21st.
We have a motion to schedule a public hearing on ZO 2017-04-21, our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Support.
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item K, discussion on zoning ordinance. Okay. Comments from the chair. Thank you for your work tonight. And we appreciate everybody being so well prepared. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a week.
No, you're not.
I am. Comments from planning commissioners?
I may or may not be here in March. I may be traveling in Colorado, so I will let you know as that time gets closer.
Okay, thank you, Nate. Comments from staff?
Just want to thank you all. Over the last year and a half, I know I've kind of modified how I've presented materials to you, including, doing these, formal proposed draft findings of fact. I hope to carry on that practice. I will hope to get, those to you, sooner rather than later. If there's any questions that you have on the information that you get, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I do my best, but sometimes, some things do require clarification, so let me know.
Okay. Thank you. We are now at item O, public comment. Basically, at this point, the public can comment on just about anything related to planning and zoning. If you wish to make a comment, please come to the podium, and we'll open a second public comment at 8:29 p.m. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the second public comment also at 8:29 p.m. And we now are at adjournment and need a motion to take care of such.
I would motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have support. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We stand adjourned at 8:30 p.m. Thank you.